So, good afternoon. I thought that my viewer Sam, his show for the Real ID, well, after I finished it this morning, I thought I've got more to say. And since it's my show, I get to say more. So, here's part two. Why is my ID not real? My ID, my driver's license that I have had since I'm 16 years old. My ID that has bought me thousands of cases of wine, that has bought me many, many cartons of cigarettes, that has allowed me to vote in many elections, that has been good enough to get me into foreign countries like Jamaica, Mexico, if I wanted to go. I have never been to Mexico. But in other words, that's all you needed, your birth certificate and your driver's license. You get to go to Mexico. You get to go to Jamaica. You get to go to Canada. You know, my driver's license, the one I've had since I'm 16, 40-some years now, almost 40 years, it has gotten me into bars. It's gotten me into dance clubs. It's gotten me past bouncers. It's gotten me into anywhere that I actually really wanted to go for 40 years. And now all of a sudden, because the nanny government waved a pen, it's not good enough anymore. Why? Why? Look, 9/11/01, where I say every year we must never forget 9/11/01, we also cannot allow it to define us, because since 9/11/01, there has not been one incident of a United States terrorist attack with an airplane. And yet we keep making air travel more restrictive, more regulated, more a pain in our asses. While the terrorists have already moved on, the criminals have moved on. If the nanny government thinks for 5 minutes that by forcing a bunch of people in Pennsylvania to stand outside the DMV for 8 hours to get real ID is going to stop one criminal from getting where they want to go, it's not. We've learned this. Criminals find a way. It's the law-abiding citizens who say, oh my God, the government says I have to have a real ID, so I better go get in line like now. No, see, you don't. You don't. I'm going to show you at the end of the show exactly what I'm going to do about real ID. Because I ain't getting one. I'm not going to be a puppet or cattle and run to the DMV and give them all this personal information they don't need to allow me to go from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to Port St. Lucie, Florida, or from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. See, that's what cars are for. That's what trains are for. That's what buses are for. And by the way, you're not going to need real ID to get on a bus. So the criminals will just get on buses. The criminals will just get cars. You don't need a real ID to rent a car, as far as I know. And you know what? At one point, I even thought, oh man, what a great way to get out of jury duty. Now remember, it says if you don't have real ID, you can't go into federal buildings and installations. Well, they didn't mean the federal courthouse. So federal courthouses you can still get into with your good old-fashioned driver's license you've had since you're 16. So they can still get you for jury duty. But you can't visit your husband in prison. You see where I'm going with this? This is the kind of crap that makes no sense to me. It's nanny government at its worst. And it is so unnecessary. And all it does is it costs us, the American citizens, the law-abiding citizens, money, while the criminals are probably already making their own fake real IDs on their computers as we speak to get wherever they need to go to do harm wherever they choose to do it. Because in our country, unfortunately, the criminals always win. And our government goes on the offensive after something happens that's never going to happen again. I submit to you, we're never going to have another 9/11/01 in America. But we had one. 3,000 innocent people dead. More dying every day, the first responders, from the crap they breathed in while they tried to rescue people. There was no one to rescue. Everybody was incinerated. That was a win for the terrorists. But now, it's a loss for all of us. We're on the losing side because now we have to jump through hoops and do somersaults to get on a freaking plane. What is next in America? Let me ask you this. Are we going to be Russia and places in Europe where when you cross a border, when I go from Pennsylvania to Maryland to go to my summer house, am I going to have to show my papers at the border from Pennsylvania into Maryland? Papers, papers, papers. Where's your real ID? Am I not going to be able to drive from Pennsylvania an hour to Maryland without showing papers at a border crossing? Is this what America's going to turn into while we say we're going to send troops over to these countries who have lived with this crap all their lives and stop them from doing it because we want them to live like Americans, free and all? Travel is not free in this country. Personal movement from one state to the next is no longer free. You no longer have the liberty to get on a plane and travel 1 hour from Philadelphia to Boston unless you have the real ID or a passport. A passport to go from Pennsylvania to Boston. Are you freaking kidding me right now? And you know what? And believe me, I am a law-abiding citizen. But if I were not a law-abiding citizen and I wanted to do some harm to someone in Boston and I didn't have the real ID because I'm a criminal and I can't get one, I'd get in a freaking car and drive 8 hours to Boston and take out the motherfucker that pissed me off. You really don't think that people are going to find a way around this real ID? Just because they can't get on a plane doesn't mean they can't get in a car and start driving with a map. Hell, you get these cars now, the car will tell you where to go. You know, I want to go kill people at this address. Just punch it into Google. I want to get to this address. And guess what? You can get your AR-15 in your SUV. You can't get it on a plane. I'm just saying, please, do not take this the wrong way. I'm just saying this real ID crap is a way to get your money, get you to stand in line like a bunch of cattle, and bow down to this nanny government who thinks they know what's good for you, and they're trying to say that this is going to make you safer. You know those people in that country music bar, the Borderline, in California? Nobody got on an airplane to kill those innocent people. No one needed real ID to get into the bar. And the shooter didn't need any ID to get into the bar because he had his gun. He just walked in and started shooting anybody in his way. Real ID would not have saved their lives from a domestic terrorist. And isn't this what real ID is about? It's only for American citizens. We don't ask people in Britain who are coming into this country to have real ID. I guess their passports are real ID. But again, as I said earlier, it's a hell of a lot easier to get a passport, birth certificate, social security number, and a picture ID. You get a passport. Real ID in America, you need to give them your firstborn child. You need to show bank statements, utility bills, proof that you live where you say you live. All kinds of crap. Why? If we are so afraid of foreign terrorists, why are we making it easier for foreigners to come into our country with no ID? Just walk on in. We'll find a place for you. We'll get you a low-paying job. We'll get you state-funded housing paid for by the American citizens who go to work every day and pay taxes. But if you're an American citizen and you want to go from Pennsylvania to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, we're going to make you jump through some hoops and pay some extra money. We don't trust you. But we trust these illegal immigrants coming in to take care of our children, to clean our houses, to mow our lawns. We'd rather have them just walk in while American citizens have to jump through hoops to actually travel 800 miles from Pennsylvania to Myrtle Beach. Really? You know what? I'm going to take the car. I'll take my car. And if anybody stops me at the border of anywhere, I'll just turn my car around and go the fuck home. Because there is no place I need to be that is as important as my freedom to be. The government doesn't need to see my bank statement. The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, doesn't need to see my utility bills. I passed my driver's test when I was 16 years old. I passed the written and I passed the on-road test. That driver's license is going to last me for the rest of my fucking life. I'm not getting no real ID. And you know what? I'm so pissed off right now. And the fact that it is so dangerous for Americans to travel outside of our country because we have targets on our back. I don't even want to leave the country. I may not even get a passport. At the end of the day, I don't have to travel. Those who love me and want to see me can come see me. You know, I have a husband. I have a dog. I don't drive. It is inconvenient, more inconvenient for me to travel than those who are single with no pets to come see me. Not to mention the fact that they live in places where it's really not even on my bucket list to go. I have a few bucket list places to go, and the only way I will go to them is if I'm diagnosed with a terminal illness. One is Greece, and one is I would like to go back to the Cayman Islands and show it to my husband, because he's never been there. I have. Those are my two bucket list places, and the rest of my bucket list places are actually in the United States. I'd love to go to Boston. I'd love to go to Maine. Love to go to Atlantic City. And guess what? All those places are accessible with my husband's driver's license that he got when he was 16, my driver's license that I got when I was 16, and a car in good condition. That's all we need to at least do my bucket list. So, Sam, my friend, thank you very much. I know that you do have family that you need to fly to visit. And I am sorry that you may actually need either a passport or a real ID. I suggest the passport. Again, you don't need to be giving people, strangers, your bank statements and all the other crap real ID requires. Or the extra money a real ID costs. So get your passport, my friend. Hopefully we'll see you and maybe even Vincent next year in Lancaster. But for political Paula, this is what I say to real ID. Savvy, clean that up. Political Paula is out.